Earlier this year, I had a crazy thought. What if we traveled the entire length of the United States to visit 4 national parks and other incredible cities in between? Somehow the trip came together, and I would love to take you with us. This was my family's first big vacation with my daughter, which was particularly exciting. We kicked off from Milwaukee and did our first overnight in Lebanon, Missouri. We had to stop at Buc-ee's because why not? This is road trip material 101. Buc-ee's was incredibly overstimulating. I could not believe how many people there were, and frankly, this footage does not communicate how busy it was. I will say, though, their snacks were top tier, and their fresh tortillas and brisket was incredible. If you stop at Buc-ee's, I highly recommend getting a brisket wrap or a sandwich. They were super good. Our second night was spent in Shamrock, Texas, which I am henceforth referring to lovingly as the most rural town in America. Before we headed out of Shamrock, we decided to explore some of the historic Route 66 icons that were around their downtown area. My daughter loved the movie Cars, and it was very obvious that this is one of the buildings that Pixar scouted when they were looking for areas in the Southwest to use as inspiration in that movie. And this was confirmed by a very kind woman who allowed us to sneak into this little public museum and look around. And I loved that they had an actual bespoke Cars exhibit in the back of the museum. The rest of that day was spent driving through New Mexico. We did an overnight in Gallup and then hit the road early for Sedona. I brought 5 books with me. The first book I decided to read was Tangerine by Emanuela Anachum. This was published earlier in 2026 by Europa Editions. This is a very family-centric story about a young woman named Mina who is trying to determine who she is, and she's looking in all of the wrong places. But when her father suddenly passes away, she's forced to really look at her identity outside of who society has told her she should be, being raised half Italian, half Moroccan, how that tension plays out in her current relationships. I just thought the book was not as deep into Mina's identity recovery as it could have been. And I found a lot of the side characters so interesting, and I would have liked to see them fleshed out a little bit more. I just thought the author brought up a lot of things that really could have been explored more intentionally. We came into Sedona from the north. That takes you through Oak Creek Canyon. What I love about this area is that there are pull-offs on the road that you can stop and park and explore these hidden paths off of the main highway through Oak Creek Canyon. And this was such a beautiful spot to just relax and stretch our legs, enjoy nature, and really kick off our Sedona trip on a beautiful note. The original hiking trail I wanted to take my family on was closed because of a recent fire that had gone through the area. So we pivoted and decided to hit up Baldwin Trail, which takes you right to this gorgeous vista of Cathedral Rock on the southern side of Sedona. Admittedly, I overestimated how hot it was going to be on this mostly open, no shade trail. The trail was gorgeous, and I'm absolutely glad we were able to get right up to Cathedral Rock and walk along Oak Creek. But we didn't complete the entire thing because the heat was rising and I was kind of worried about my daughter at this point. So we headed back to the car, checked in at our hotel, and then decided to do some shopping in the Tlaquepaque area. If you visit Sedona, I highly recommend visiting Renee and Tlaquepaque for dinner, drinks, and dessert. This restaurant is wonderful. They have this beautiful outdoor patio. It's a very relaxing experience tucked away in this little Spanish-inspired complex in town. I have to give a shout out to our hotel in Sedona, which was called the Cocopelli Inn. This place was so great. Their swimming pool area was beautiful. They had one of the best continental breakfasts we had on the entire trip with this like full service yogurt bar. Highly recommend if you're looking for a super affordable hotel in the Sedona area, check out the Cocopelli Inn. From there, the Grand Canyon is only about 2 hours away, so on the way out, we did a little bit more shopping and then arrived at the Grand Canyon National Park to spend the rest of our day there after checking into our hotel in the Grand Canyon Village, which is right outside the national park's main entrance. This is my second time at the Grand Canyon, and it was incredible to experience it all over again for a second time. Everywhere you look, once you kind of get to the rim, is different. There's a different view, a different color, a different experience. After we did Mather Point, we hopped on the park's complimentary shuttle and went to the Bright Angel Trail. After we hiked a bit of the Bright Angel Trail, we went back up to the rim and explored some of the gift shops. There's an art gallery right along that walkway, and then kept walking to El Tovar, which is their historic Bright Angel Lodge. We popped in for some dinner with views overlooking the canyon itself. It was a beautiful experience. The food was wonderful. Afterwards, we spent our evening watching the sunset and stargazing as the park took on a completely different personality. California welcomed us with a 118-degree drive through the Mojave Desert. It was so hot that when we pulled over to get out and use a rest stop, it felt like someone was blowing a hairdryer directly on my arm. But soon the desert gave way to rolling hills, fields full of pistachios, almonds, and orange trees. Sequoia National Park was my first experience with truly remote wilderness. And what struck me was just the sheer magnitude of how rich a state California is in natural resources and beauty. Visiting the national parks, particularly one as remote as Sequoia, really humbles you. It's an experience where you realize how truly small you are on this planet and how one wrong step could be the difference between life or death. After that initial view of Morro Rock, we headed up further into the mountains where the Sequoia Grove really opened up to us. We parked at the Giant Tree Museum, which is kind of like the main hub within Sequoia National Park. Our first stop was the General Sherman Tree. If you're visiting like we did during peak season, I recommend avoiding the line that ends up queuing at the front of the General Sherman Tree. Walk around the pathway to the back where you get this perfectly clear view without any people in it. After hopping back on the shuttle, we headed over to Morro Rock to climb to the top. Fair warning, this is not for those who have a fear of heights. I personally climbed a little over halfway before my daughter and I decided to turn around, but my husband and my mom made it to the top and they said the view alone was definitely worth the trek. After a wonderful stay in Oakhurst, California, we finally arrived at the big one, Yosemite National Park. All summer long, I'd been reading articles about how Yosemite is having record-breaking crowds, and it was very busy. But this first view of Half Dome and El Capitan was something that made it all worth it. This first vista of Half Dome and El Capitan was much easier to see than the tunnel view, which is traditionally where everyone goes. After you come through the tunnel, the view opens up to you in a way that really allows you to understand the majesty of Yosemite. To the lower right, you can vaguely see Bridal Veil Falls with Half Dome in the background and El Capitan, which is this big sheer rock cliff to the left. Parking in the valley was genuinely excruciating, but once we found a spot, we decided to hike to Lower Yosemite Falls, which is one of Yosemite's fully accessible trails. Luis and I decided to climb the rocks that make up the bottom portion of the falls. Apparently in the spring, this entire area is just full of roaring rapids coming down from the falls, so it felt particularly surreal to be able to climb on these rocks. When the heat started to get to us a little bit, we headed back down the rocks and hiked the rest of the trail before heading back to Yosemite Lodge and renting bikes to give us a little bit better of an opportunity to see more of Yosemite Valley. If I were to offer one tip when visiting Yosemite, it would be to give yourself time. Time to find parking, time to explore the trails, just time to really revel in the incredible grandeur that you are witnessing. I left Yosemite with this sort of wistful feeling of wanderlust and the desire to immediately return. I will be honest, after 2 really intense days of doing national parks and them being very physically intense, it was kind of nice to take off the thinking cap of what do we do while we're waiting to check in. And so we just played the part of tourist and shopped around. We had lunch at the taco cantina at the wharf, had some margaritas, saw the sea lions on Pier 39, and then of course we had to hop on the Ferris wheel. After we got off the Ferris wheel, we headed over to Musée Mécanique, which was high on my bucket list, partially because it's a really fun, easy thing to do if you're traveling with your family, but also because this museum was featured in The Princess Diaries. Of course, you need coins to use any of the games and machines, so they do have coin machines on the premises, but they didn't work, so we ended up having to track down an employee who rides around on roller skates. He helped us break some bills and we could start playing the games. The museum used to be housed in the basement of Cliff House, but after Cliff House was closed for renovations, they moved it to the Wharf, where it has been since 2002. They have over 300 items in their inventory, including games, automatons, mechanical machines. On our way out, we had to say hi to Laughing Sal, but genuinely, I felt like this was nightmare fuel. The next morning, we grabbed breakfast at Pat's Cafe, which was amazing. Incredible French toast. And then we attempted to navigate the San Francisco cable car system. Absolutely no disrespect to the people of San Francisco, and I know that this is a bit of a controversial topic for San Franciscans, but this was not the ideal way to get around town. We spent the morning in Chinatown, walking around, shopping. We first stopped at the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory to watch them make fortune cookies by hand. We were given free samples while we stood in line, and they were so delicious. We had quite a time trying to hail a cable car back to our hotel, but we finally got it and headed back to the Russian Hill area to explore Lombard Street and all of the green spaces and parks in that area. There are a million and one ways to see the bridge, but we decided to grab coffee at Roundhouse Cafe. This is also situated in the Golden Gate recreational area, so there are a ton of walking and biking paths. I highly recommend visiting if you just want a really beautiful, clear way of seeing the bridge. We absolutely lucked out that it was a bright, sunny, no fog day, so we really took advantage and just lingered in the area and eventually drove over to the other side where my husband announced he wanted to walk the bridge. I do not recommend doing this. It was incredibly overstimulating, so loud, and obviously very windy. Back in town, we grabbed dinner at the Korean restaurant called Surisan, which I cannot recommend enough. I'm so upset I didn't get a picture of my food because it was the best bibimbap I've ever had. The next morning, we headed out via Sausalito to take Highway 1 up the coast, but not before stopping for breakfast at Sausalito Bakery and Cafe. And while we were eating, we were already planning our next trip back to the Bay Area because we all fell in love with it. I really loved visiting Sausalito, even for a few hours. Next leg of our journey was to take Highway 1 up the California coast. I enjoy the flexibility of road trips because they allow you to just pull off when you see something that catches your attention. And we happened to spot this French cheese shop. They make their own cheese. There is a dairy farm on site, and we sampled some of their brie, got some traditional like French sandwiches with the crusty bread, and just ate outside on their beautiful grounds. I took my daughter for a walk to go look at their dairy farm that was on the far end of their property, and I couldn't help but think about the Trask family from John Steinbeck's East of Eden. While I wasn't actually in the Salinas Valley, I felt like I got a sense of the land that inspired so much of the context of East of Eden. We arrived in Eureka, California just in time to grab some dinner and watch the sunset into the Pacific. Redwoods National Park is genuinely one of those places that feels magical at every turn. The juxtaposition of the rocky coastline with the lush forest really does a number on your emotional response to this national park. When I came home and looked at my footage, I realized I didn't get a lot of videos from Redwoods National Park because something about this area just pulled your full attention into focus. The silence that the fog blankets over the trees really almost is seductive. You find that you're lulled into this silence, this inner quiet. At times, it felt like I was seeing the earth for the first time, exactly how it's been for the last several million years. It's definitely an experience that's tough to articulate in a YouTube video. The further we walked into the redwood grove, the fog continued to descend further and further down into the floor of the forest. We had a 4-day drive back to Milwaukee. It was the perfect amount of time to journal and reflect on everything that I had seen and experienced with my family on this trip. I'm so happy we bit the bullet and did it. I hope you enjoyed seeing bits and pieces of our travels. If you've been to any of these national parks, I would love to know what your experience was. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.